in about 15 seconds. But really kind of the reason why we like to do this is, I think at Lake Forest Academy, one of the things, at least that the Dean's office always preaches, is there's so many different ways to get involved, and there's so many different ways to participate. And so what we try to do is pull together students that have this period free whenever it comes up each year and be able to kind of highlight some of those things. And so I've kind of charged them with introducing themselves, talking about where they come from, who they are, how long they've been here, and the kind of different avenues that they've been involved while at LFA. And then from there, if you all have questions, we can ask and answer those things. But 4 of our leaders, I think all students here are leaders, and so whether they're here or they hold a traditional title, I think every student has the opportunity to be a leader here through a variety of different vehicles for growth. And so with that, I will turn it over to the panel, and they can choose who will go first. And if it's like any exercise walking through the door, that might take a while.
Hi, my name is Connor McMahon. I'm from Huntington Beach, California. This is my 3rd year here at Lake Forest Academy. I'm a boarder over at Ellis Hall. I'm a proctor, and I play in the prep hockey team for the 3rd year in a row now. So it's just been a great time here at LFA. I can't believe it's coming up short already. Going to be graduating here in a few months, but it's definitely been a journey coming from private high school in California to coming to the Midwest. It's a little colder here, but definitely one of the best decisions I've made in my life.
Hi, I'm Tenny Bakari. I'm a senior here at LFA. I'm also a president. I'm from Chicago, and I'm a proctor and a boarder in Ferry Hall. I've been here all 4 years. It's been a great experience. I love my time here, and I'm happy that I came here and started going to public school in Chicago.
I can relate to that as well. So my name is MJ Alexander. I live in Deerfield, Illinois, so it's just 15 minutes away from here. I commute every morning. I play volleyball at the school. I play hockey, ice hockey, and then I play lacrosse as well. And over the years, this is my 4th year, I'm a senior, and I've been able to get involved in Cats and Keys and touring people around the school. I've had many shadows, so new students have followed me throughout the day during my schedule. So that's how I got.
Hi, I'm Sydney Olinger. I'm also a day student. I'm from Lake Forest. I live 2 minutes away, and my drive is very short, which is helpful in the morning. I have been here for 4 years. I'm also a senior. I play soccer and hockey, which is actually new to me. I just started sophomore year. And I'm on the Spectator, which is the LFA newspaper, and one of the editor-in-chiefs this year.
I've got a question. So you talked a little bit about athletics, and I'll lump them in as the traditional leadership positions, proctors at boarding schools or student council or things like that. Are you involved in any clubs here kind of that take place during the day? And if you can also kind of talk to the parents, especially those new parents, kind of how do you hear about those clubs?
So we have a club fair next week, F Day, September 14th. And that's where all the clubs usually have their posters, and we try to bait the children to come to us and join our clubs. I've been a part of many clubs at LFA, Unidos, which is our Hispanic affinity group, or like BSU, Black Student Union. I'm also part of AAA, which is Asian American Association, and Cats and Keys. And a way we try to get kids to join clubs is just by showing a friendly face and just asking them if they're interested in what we have to offer. There are many clubs at LFA, from Grill and Chill Club to anything else on the spectrum.
I think Tenny covered most of it, but yeah, we have a pretty big variety of clubs. We've got the ones that have been really long-standing, like FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America, and then there's Asian American Association, LUN, Cats and Keys, BSU, which is Black Student Union, and then we have other ones like Kenny was talking about, Chill and Grill, and then there was Spike Ball last year. I don't know that that's going to be coming back this year, but yeah, so there's definitely.
So Question, if you were at the club fair and nothing appealed, can you start your own club? How hard is that?
Yes, you can start your own club. So basically all that requires for a club is you need at least 3 members of the club to begin with, and then you need a teacher to sign basically that they want to be a part of the club as well. So it's really open because there's, like we were talking about, like there's been so many different, like a variety of clubs, and you can really do anything with whatever you want to like start. And it's really cool because when you start a club, you just meet new people, especially as a new student. It's easier to meet new people when you're in clubs, and that goes with like teams and everything. So yeah.
There's a question here.
Yeah, question.
How many clubs can you join?
You can join as many clubs as you want.
Is it during the day or is it?
It's after a G-Day break, so classes on G-Day end at 1:30, and most of the clubs meet after that. I know my sophomore year there was an ice skating club that would meet right after school ended on G-Day. But yeah, I mean, it's just how many clubs you want to fit into your schedule. I mean, you could join one club, or you could join 15 clubs. It's all up to you.
And I think both Connor and I think MJ kind of alluded to it, or maybe it was Sid. Clubs come and go based off of student leadership in a lot of ways, and not even student leadership in terms of who's putting it out there. I should probably use the phrase student interest. I would imagine we had a bunch of 9th graders on campus last year who loved ultimate frisbee, and I think there's an ultimate frisbee club in the works that might evolve. I'd say 5 or 6 years ago that was a club and actually a PE option on our campus. And so again, so much of the clubs are based off of student interest. And that varies, and I think they also did a really nice job of kind of alluding to it. Is there are some clubs that are meant to be more, I'll say, this is going to sound bad, fun focused, right? Real and chill, and so I would say, and I'll say it here, it stays in this room, their seriousness of purpose isn't at the same level as, say, a Model UN or a Science Olympiad, which I would categorize those as academically focused. And then you have a third category, which are, I'd say, the clubs that you would hope to see advertising or present at any college or university. And those would be, the Gay Straight Alliance and Harlow Society and BSU and our Cultural Diversity Club, and the list goes on, right? So I think those are the clubs that are important to the fabric of the community. They can serve as affinity groups, or they can serve as ways to weave students together, and I think as students join those, they begin to kind of get a sense of what's going on in the community, and they can listen and learn from students who might be experiencing some things, as also sharing information and being able to kind of, I think, share culture and make this a richer place. Question that I haven't heard an answer yet to, but I'm curious, is Interact, which is probably our largest club. Could one of you maybe talk about Interact and then maybe even expand that to service in general, in terms of, are there service opportunities on campus? Is there a service requirement that we kind of mandate as graduation? And then are there opportunities, or have any of you participated in service that might not be directly related with LFA, but somehow incorporates LFA into what you're looking to do? Yes?
In addition to that, can you explain how Interact relates to the Harvest Home, sort of enterprise-wide events?
Sure thing.
That I never understood.
Sounds good. I'll let them explain it, and if they connect it, then that would be great. If they don't, then I'll jump in and do the institutional spiel.
So Interact is our service learning club. It's headed by Ms. Collins and Ms. Sorensen, and they work with students. Alex Jackson, who's the leader this year, to provide service opportunities for LFA students that want to. They have the Nuestro Center, which is they go to a school and they help first graders whose first language is Spanish, and so they help them with like their English homework and their math homework. They also have AJK runs weekly, where they go and they do science projects or any literary projects they'd like to do with the kids to like form bonds. And then we have our Project Pumpkin, which is in October, and it's when we bring the AJK kids over to LFA, and they do trick or treat around campus, and usually student council and other student groups will have little rooms for them, and we'll have games, and they're able to get candy, and it's really fun. And then we also have Harvest Hope, which I think is when we do the food drive, or canned goods drive, and every advisory is supposed to bring in a specific amount, and then every building, depending on where the advisory is, has a specific food that they're supposed to bring in. We've done boxed brownies, or mac and cheese, or string beans, it's whatever food is really in need that year. Interact over the years, we'll have different places for us to go, and any students allowed to do it. Sometimes you need waivers, sometimes you don't, but it's really, I won't say free for all, but it's open to everyone on campus, and they're encouraged to participate in service any way they can. We do have a mandatory service day though, where everyone on campus will go out and do a service for the day. It differs between students, people that are in choir, and APES, or AP Environmental Science. They're required to do a specific thing that day, so choir goes to a nursing home, they sing. APES goes to open lands, and they help do leading, or whatever they have to do that year.
Football also is one of the groups that goes somewhere. But I just want to add that Interact is generally focused more towards the kids and doing activities after school. Also, like Project Pumpkin, having the kids come here and do trick-or-treating, since it's not as safe where they are, where they live, to do trick-or-treating around their neighborhoods. But it also is focusing on the families of those kids as well, which is what Harvest Hope does. Around Thanksgiving, where we collect all the food from the advisories and then we give it out to the families, so it helps the kids and the families.
Did you guys get involved in things freshman year, or did you kind of have to warm up to that a little bit? I have a sophomore, and I'm still pushing him to get involved. He told me there were no clubs last year. We all heard this before. I don't buy it anymore. So I'm just curious if you know, if the sophomore year sort of click in for you all to kind of say, okay, I'm ready to get involved now.
So yeah, I think I can relate to that a little bit, except I think like the first week freshman year, I felt like it was a lot, because we were given these classes, everyone in the freshman grade, pretty much the same classes except for arts, because that varies with whatever you're interested in. But I think for me, I was really intrigued by everything. Like I went to the club fair, I signed up for probably 8 clubs. It was a lot, definitely to take in. I think as I grew up, got older, I guess. But yeah, my sophomore year, I think I found that I had a place in the community, like a teensy bit more, because when you're a freshman, you're a little bit younger, you're new to the community, and you're just kind of warming yourself up. I think sophomore year, I felt more secure at the school, so I definitely wanted to get more involved. I felt just better about being here, so. And yeah, so I think, I don't know what you can do about that, but I think I guess he kind of rose his own boat, but I think if he finds anything that he's interested in, just get push him to achieve it and pursue it.
I would say just quickly too, and I think that's a really good answer, and I think it's indicative of, you know, each student is on their own journey here, and that's going to take time. And at least what I see from kind of my desk in the corner of Upper Corbin, as you look out, it's kind of, you know, it's really something. 9th grade year, you really are trying to find your way, and you can go about it, you know, freely and sign up for, you know, your child might come home and be like, I signed up for 30 clubs, and that's great. And some of those may never run, and others they might be really involved, and it's finding that balance. But it really is kind of maybe towards the end of sophomore year, having that second year under their belt, starting to feel a little bit more like part of the community. having gone through sophomore seminar where you and your pod are in charge of kind of spearheading a service project where whether they see the value in it or not, they begin to understand that, hey, we have control over this and that it could be a huge success or it could be a little bit of a flop, but the flop isn't based off how much money it raises. It's just, hey, how did we do organizing it? And so there's real power in that. And so I think those types of things begin to kind of build our students up. And so, you know, the risk we run is if we continue to push it on them, they eventually push back. And so the key is to continue to have those conversations. I think the Academy does a really good job of putting it under their noses. I think students do a great job of making announcements at morning meeting and sending out emails and putting flyers up around campus. But students are going to feel differently based off of their entry points and where they come from and how they feel as part of the community. And so we just want to kind of watch that and encourage where it is. You know, Connor's got a different starting point than the other students. And so by the end of sophomore year where everyone was jumping in, he might have still been trying to figure out, okay, my toes are just in the water right now. I'm not ready to jump in yet. Just one last thing would be, as you're having these things, I think a really valuable person to use is the advisor. Oftentimes, because the conversations that we might be having as home, as parents, are just being heard as but if an advisor or if a teacher that they have a relationship with is able to kind of engage them and make that suggestion, that can often go a long way. And I think that's one of the major roles of an advisor. And so being able to have those conversations is a really good thing because in all likelihood, your child's advisor probably is having those conversations in one way. They certainly engaged in them when they did 4-year planning. If they're a returning student, is one of the questions we tell them to ask is, hey, what ways would you like to be involved in the community, right? And then there's a responsibility that falls on the students, but there's also that kind of pushing and prodding or carrying along.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I came in as a sophomore, brand new, only knew one person from California who's now, who I play with on the hockey team. But definitely for me, going away from home for the first time was definitely very challenging. I was homesick for the first week, but I think preseason week that we have here for most fall sports students, excuse me, really helped me in the hockey team. I have 14 some older brothers, 14 seniors that really helped me kind of wade into my LFA career. And throughout the year, I definitely started to gain a new personality of getting more involved in the community. I was always a shy kid when I was younger. Never really wanted to participate in anything, but you know, playing hockey, being active in the dorms, that's how I became a proctor. I mean, dorm parents saw something in me that, okay, when you're a senior, you can be a proctor. You have the leadership qualities that we're seeing in you now that you can build upon throughout your rest of your sophomore, junior, and beginning of my senior year, that you can get involved. Like, you don't be afraid to, you know, express yourself.
I know the public high schools do have service hour requirements for graduation. Do we have that here at LFA?
We don't have service hour requirements, but it's actually kind of cool to see that even though we don't have those service hour requirements, there's so many different service opportunities and kids are so willing to go on them. From going back to Interact, I've kind of seen kids at different, when we do go to like Bernie's Book Bank or something like that, you'll see other schools. I know Carmel Catholic has service hour requirements, and they're always complaining about those, but the fact that we don't have them, but we're still very willing to go on them, I think that's really cool.
I'm just gonna say this, because I think it's kind of like I'm gonna make like a metaphor, I guess, kind of. So like, you know how when you tell your kids like to do something and they don't want to do it, it's kind of like that kind of thing, I guess. Because, yeah, like we were talking about how most high schools like have requirements and they kind of have to do it, and it makes it like like you're dragging them out, I guess. But I think like here, I personally, like I felt kind of motivated to do a lot of it because my first service learning day, I really enjoyed it. Like it was a good time. I bonded with the people that I went with. I didn't really know a lot of the people in my group, but I got to know them and I became friendly with them. I went to like the equestrian connection and there were horses. Like I love animals, so it was just a really good time. And I think we have a lot of opportunities to do some fun things while doing some
Yeah, I know one of our most famous ones, or the most active that a lot of students go to, is Feed My Starving Children. But going back to what Sid and MJ said, like, it's not required, but people still show up because they want to make a difference and they want to make an impact on their community. And it just shows that LFA students are willing to step out of their comfort zone and help other people or families who are less fortunate than they are.
With day students versus boarding students, are you socially connected? Are you missing out? Do you feel like one's missing out from the other? How do you connect when you're starting out, when you were a freshman? Like, how did you find your way?
As a freshman boarding student, I remember it was a little bit hard because in the dorms it's interesting because you have international students that you're also trying to, get across cultural barriers with, but you also have some boarding, like domestic students. So it's interesting within the dorms trying to be able to relate to each other and kind of find common ground. But also when you're meeting like day students in class and you're becoming friends, it's a little rough because you're freshmen, so no one can drive yet. But you find time within like study hours or just within sports or throughout the day to hang out with your friends, value the time you have with them. And as you get older, or if you make more day student friends that are older than you, you can hang out with them off campus or anything. As long as you sign out. It gets easier as you grow up because you're a little bit more free. But as a freshman, it's definitely not impossible. It's not that hard either. You just have to make sure you and your friend are putting forth that extra effort to really stay connected.
Yeah, coming from like a sophomore boarding student, you have students in the dorm who have known each other for a year. And when you're a new student, you're required to board with international students. So I got to learn, my first year was from South Korea, and I got to learn all about his culture and his family, and I've had dinner with his parents. But going from like a dorm aspect versus like a day student aspect, it's just you can find common ground. You can go to sporting events with that day student that you'll meet with in class, and then you build upon that friendship relationship, and go have dinner with their families at their house, and just have vacations together. But it definitely just stems from boarding students kind of getting out and showing that, like, even bringing like day students into like their world, into their boarding life, like what they go through on a day-to-day basis, like living away from home, and kind of like giving that information to day students. When they go off to college, they know what to expect when they have to board for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to hear that because, it's funny to look back on freshman year. I think when I was a freshman, I really wanted to be a boarder. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but I really wanted to be because it just like the girls in the dorms, like there were 3 dorms and all of them, they just all like all the older girls, I just see them like interact and they were like sisters, and I just wanted to have that. Like I wanted to have that connection, and I think that's what, like it's like all about perspective. Like my view, I really like. I don't think you took it for granted, but I think that's what I saw, and what you were seeing is like like what you were seeing. I guess I don't know, but yeah. So I think like being a day student is. You're definitely more prone to being late to school, but I think like, but I make it work. I come from late to school, and my mom. But it's hard because we have 3 girls, so we're always like, I think being a day student is like freshman year. I was always involved like in sports, and I was staying from school to like when it started to like dinner because I ate dinner here too. So like there's a difference because you don't stay overnight, but I think you're here a lot anyway, so you really just get to know it.
I think it's just real quick before this question. I think it's natural as parents in the room. I think as 9th graders, I think there's a draw to come back to campus, even as 10th graders where they don't have a car and so they're here and so they don't have that freedom or independence yet. And so we kind of see that shift right at the age where, hey, all of a sudden people start to have a license or their friends start to have licenses and they have places to go. You know, my take on it is, I think we run the best weekend programming in the country in terms of activities that we run on the weekend, and they're open to everyone. The hard part is that we can't also blame, we don't want to blame the students for wanting to get off campus when they can, you know, especially our boarding schools. This is their home, and sometimes being away, and it is, you know, the same way as adults. We as adults are every once in a while, like, we just need to go have dinner out somewhere because we're on campus and we're so invested in the life of the school that sometimes we need that. And so for them to want to get home if they can, or to go spend that off campus and get a home cooked breakfast or dinner that night or the next morning, I think those things are important too. And by junior and senior year, they certainly have more access or ability to do that based off of transportation. And so, you know, I think it's something for the 9th grade and even 10th grade parents in the room. You'll notice that oftentimes your child will want to come back to campus, and they're going to want to be here because all of their friends are here too. And that's going to probably change and evolve over time, and that's okay. If it doesn't, that's not bad either, but it's just something where it's just a matter of life, and we get it. If we didn't get it here, then that would be an issue. But we want them to participate, and as they all said, they have the ability to. And so on some weekends, you know, Tenny and Connor are going on all the van runs, right? They're participating in those things. There are other times where they're going home, or they're going away for sports, or they're going to a buddy's house because that's what they want to do too. That's totally fine.
Yeah, like building off of that, going in a day student's car also comes with a lot of responsibility for boarding students because you don't know. I mean, my first years, my parents wouldn't allow me to go to another day student's car because they didn't like trust them. I mean, not saying that they're bad people, but they just didn't trust them because they weren't there, seeing like who they are. But and then I told them that like these people are actually great people. You can trust. Like, it's okay. Like I'm okay. I did that for myself. And then they finally allowed me to drive another student's car my senior year. But definitely not having car permission my first 2 years not really forced me, but I chose to go on these van runs. And going on these van runs actually helped me meet new people and became my friends throughout my sophomore and junior year.
Okay, so the van runs are what you do Friday and Saturday night, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have van runs for boarders. We can go to, on Sundays we have Target runs, so if we need anything for our dorm, food, essentials, toiletries, all that would go. Target runs every weekend on Sunday, and then Friday night we have movie runs, so if there's a brand new movie out, there'll be a van run to go see that. Different restaurants. These past 2 years have been dinners on us, and teachers will take students to go to a restaurant, and it's on the teachers, it's on the school, so the students don't have to pay. But there's multiple different van runs. I mean, this past weekend we just came back from Six Flags, our annual Six Flags trip. But there's a multitude of different van runs that students.
And the day students feel okay about signing up for those, right?
Yeah, day students can sign up for those trips. If the parents don't really want to, like, if they want to kind of get into like the boarding world, they can definitely sign up for those trips as well.
Also, I'm just gonna add really quickly, this is another like van run. We sometimes do fan vans. So like when there's an away game, that's like a big game like against LFA Jets or like, I don't know, another high school. We have a fan van where we like pack a bunch of students into the van so that they can drive into the away game and cheer on the team.
I never knew that. No.
Well, I think we're going to let them head off to class. Thank you all very much for coming.
I just want to thank them again. Good job, great job actually. And if you all have questions about things, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to respond, or if we need to meet or have a phone conversation, happy to always do those types of things. They mentioned that the PNA Club Fair is next Friday, 1/1/45. It's a really cool event where the whole Great Hall and Garden Room gets lined with probably about anywhere from 50 to 70 clubs. And they're all kind of recruiting or just making themselves available for people to kind of go around and window shop a little bit, and allow them to kind of see where they might be interested or where they might want to challenge themselves or try something new. And so that's on the horizon and it's out there. And so, you know, you can push and prod your children and encourage them to do that as well. But the cool part about it is, what would you say, at about 1:15, this place is so crowded that you can barely walk. and so it's kind of gross actually, but it's it is really crowded because the whole school is here. So there is kind of, when we talk about culture of participation, it is pretty neat to walk into the Great Hall and see 3/4 of the school or more here kind of walking around. And so there is kind of that nice subconscious peer pressure in that. So anyway, my email, I think you all have it. You probably heard me point out. Please don't hesitate. And thank you for all your questions to these students. They can put it much better than any of us. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I can't even speak. As an aside, as a parent that's been through it, I have a son that graduated last year. He didn't really sign up for anything until his junior year. I mean, I was like stressing that he didn't sign up. I was stressing he wasn't getting to college. I was stressing about all these details. He was just fine. He's having a great time at USC, so he's doing just fine. So if your kid comes home and didn't sign up for something, don't be upset. They're still trying to figure it out, and it's okay. If you have any questions, yes?
I think it's just worth mentioning that even if they don't sign up, all of these activities are announced at their morning meeting. So a student gets up on the stage in Cressy and tells them about what the ice skating club is doing or whatever club. You don't have to be a member, you can show up and ice skate, there's no obligation. If you sign your name to something and you decide not to go, it's no big deal. So I think that from a student perspective, and Laura, maybe to answer your question, your son should just see what maybe his friends are interested in doing. Like Harvest Hope is a great one because there's lots of students participating.
Yeah, I don't want everybody to
There's no room in his son.
I have two of those.
I'm an independent college counselor, so
Yeah.
I have a little bit more perspective
Yeah.
on working. I know that other people listen to me and my kid doesn't listen to me, so I get that. But all these other kids that go to local schools that I work with have been doing stuff since freshman year, so I'm a little bit more.
But they have to want it.
Yeah,
They
they
don't
do.
want it, they're not gonna like it, and then
feel like, like you just said, I'm just worried, like, if kids did fill out his application, it's gonna be like,
both my kids,
nothing to put down, you know, so.
yeah, both my kids have nothing till junior year, so it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all
No,
good, and they're
I think
fine.
it's just that they do this so early freshman year, they're all like, you know, he's completely out of his depth at that point. And
You're good?
Yeah, yeah,
We're
it's
all
all
in the
good.
same boat.
It's all good, I just wanted their.
So, I wanted to see if there were any additional questions. Questions or concerns or thoughts? Yes?
So, any of the one-off events that
Yes.
you need volunteers for, we'll hear from you guys.
Yes, if you sign your name up on that list, there's a list, it's back there. Also, Curly had some lists of anyone that wanted to sign up individually. We'll send out an email with the opportunities and sign up links. So it's really easy for you to just click it and then have it go into your calendar, and it's there, and if something comes up, you just let us know, it's fine. If you want to sign up later, it's fine.
news. Always.
I'm not there yet, thank you. Not there yet. E-News comes out on Sunday. It's a really great resource to take a look and see what's coming ahead. We try not to hit you over the head with too much, but I think there's some good information in there. So take some time to read it. You know, reach out if you have any questions. We're all here. We're all in together. It's going to be a great year. If anyone has any questions, thoughts? Okay, I think the meeting's adjourned. I'm around for questions. Thanks, everybody.
It's good.